The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the policy or position of ONTV's management, staff, or board of directors.
Hello and welcome to About Town. I'm your host, Sarah Luchsinger, and today we have Police Chief Rossman here with us today. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Councilman Luchsinger.
Yes,
Glad to be here.
Thank you very much. So, first things first, did you grow up in Lake Orion?
I did.
In the village?
Orion Township.
Okay.
That was 1964.
All right.
1964, my parents had a home at the corner of Silver Bell and Giddings, right across from the airport.
Okay.
And which is now GM. And then they moved over to Pine Tree and had a house built. And went through Orion schools, went to Weber, went to Pine Tree when it was built in third grade. And then where Walden Middle School was, it used to be Junior High West.
Okay.
It was a Charger then, a West Charger. And then went to the high school, and that's the small building in front of what I call the Taj Mahal in the back.
So, Lake Orion, born, bred, and raised.
Yes.
Okay. So, what happened after high school?
Well, after high school, I immediately got into Oakland Community College.
Okay.
And then ended up getting my associate's degree in criminal justice.
All right. And then you joined the police force?
Yes.
So what made you decide to go into the police force?
Well, it started when I was probably in my teenage years.
Mhm.
We were covered by the Oakland County Sheriff's Department in the township. And they would, once in a while, sit and do radar on our street looking for speeders. And we'd ride up there with our bikes and kind of watch them do their job. And, of course, when they were going after a speeder, we got all excited, cool, and they had their lights on. And once in a while, the siren, woo, woo, and we'd watch them pull them, people over. And I thought that was kind of looked like a cool job.
Yeah. I remember in high school, our senior year, we took a government class. And then one of the requirements, you could choose like 3 options, and one was a ride along. And I signed up for that, and I got the canine unit. And it's really cool, and I'm a big dog person. I mean, I have 3. I probably have 250 pounds of dog at home. But, you were not allowed to get close to the dog. The police officer is telling me all these rules. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get in the car and sit, and I'm not going to move or do anything. But it was very cool, and we did actually end up pulling somebody over for speeding. And I didn't know who it was because they went to my high school. So that was pretty cool. All right. So where did you, what police academy did you go to?
Macomb, the Macomb Police Academy.
Okay. And then after that, where did you start?
Well, I started with Lake Orion when I was right about 21, well, actually 22 years old. I started with the Lake Orion Police Reserve Program.
Okay.
So what I did was Jim Leach, our former chief, hired me in as a police reservist, which is a non-paid position. And I did that for about 5 years.
Now, were you doing something else at the time?
Not in law enforcement.
Okay.
I was doing loss prevention.
Okay.
Like Montgomery Wards and
Gotcha.
Main Street Department Store.
Okay. Gotcha. And then you did this because this was your passion.
Yes, it was. What was cool about the reserve program was we were either a ride-along on a Friday, Saturday night. And the other thing, we would walk foot patrol downtown.
Uh-huh.
So it gave me an idea whether or not this is what I want to do or not.
Gotcha. Well, that's a luxury a lot of people don't have. So that's great. Well, and you kind of made full circle. You came back, and now you're the police chief here.
Yeah, actually, I moved up probably pretty quick. I was promoted to, actually, Jim Leach, my chief, asked if I wanted to go to the police academy in 1992.
Mhm.
And I said, cool. It sounds, so, and then it was actually, I look at it now, and it was kind of a bumpy road then, because Chief Leach asked for, or he asked me if I wanted to, go to the police academy, and I said yes. And then that was when, and I believe it was Governor Snyder was in office, and they cut sponsorship to local police departments in the state of Michigan. There was some budget cutting going on, and so what had happened was it was Governor Engler. I'm sorry, and what happened was one of the state reps um, introduced a bill
Mhm.
that I think it was 5% of traffic revenue could go for police sponsorship.
Okay.
So, but again, you know how bills go. Sometimes they go very slowly,
Right.
and because they gotta, they'll write it and then they'll read it and then they gotta go back and fix it.
Hash it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, it was taking a while, and this was the summer time that Chief Leach asked me to go. So, for the January Academy in the following year, so I kept in touch with the state rep from the west side of the state, and they were able to come to a conclusion, a bill for Governor Engler to sign. But again, it was right before the Christmas break. So he signed it. And then come January, I mentioned to Chief Leach that, hey, they did approve it. Of course, he had to wait for, I believe, Matt Danaskis at the time to give the okay. Yes, it's official. And so then you got to know Chief Leach, well, like I do. He sometimes was procrastinating a little bit.
Ah.
So what I did was I called on my own, Macomb Police Academy, and said, hey, when do we, because I knew at the end of January the class would start,
Mhm.
the academy. And so I called, and they said, well, you got to have it in by today at 4:00. Well, this was already Friday at about 1 p.m. So I rushed in, and I went in, Chief, you got to get this in. I got plenty of time. Not Chief, please call. So I go to the phone, literally hand him the phone. He's all right. So he called, and he reserved 2 spots for the police academy. So that's how I was able to get in, and it was kind of interesting how it all worked out, because it looked like I was going to get in.
Mhm.
Then they cut the sponsorship fee. Then I had to wait for them to do their business at the state level, and then almost missed it
Yeah.
on that Friday.
Well, hey, I give you a lot of credit for calling yourself, because sometimes, it can be a little intimidating doing that, going above the person you should be talking to. But good for you, and I'm glad that you were able to make it. So I saw I've read a couple of articles on you before this. You were a police officer in Alma, Lake Orion, Wayne, but you were higher than just an officer in Wayne.
I was a deputy.
Okay,
Yeah, and worked in corrections, because
Okay.
that's where they start you out.
gotcha.
And I was there for approximately 6 months, and I also worked for the city of Clarkston.
That was the other one. Yep.
And each department, Elmont was part time, so I was working pretty much at the same time, almost 3 or 4 police jobs, and it was kind of comical because I'd go from one department to the next, and it was like actually the uniforms all except for the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, almost all look the same, and all I need is Velcro patches to put on when I go to work. So yeah, there was at the time about 3 departments, 4 that I was working at that time, and again I was looking for that full-time job,
hmm
and with Clarkson I started in as part-time. They did promote me to full-time, but the problem was they didn't have. I had a wife and a newborn, and I needed benefits,
hmm
and the pay was at that time I think was $9 an hour. So Wayne County came through and offered me, a better salary, and my heart was, and I was testing with Lake Orion at that
hmm
time for full time, so my heart was still at Lake Orion. So I served about 6 months at Wayne County,
hmm
and then that's when, because they also changed the residency from the where you now had to move into the county,
Okay.
and we had just bought our house in Waterford, and because there was no, they had removed the residency for the county. So now I had that to worry about. So then Almont came through because Lake Orion had not yet for full time because I was still in the testing
Mhm.
stage. So Almont then offered me under the COPS grant to be full time. Well, the COPS grant, and it came from I think President Clinton. You never knew how long that was going to be, and if the money stopped, if the municipality couldn't afford you, then they would lay you off. But my heart was, I mean, it was a 45-minute drive, but my heart was still with Lake Orion, and then Lake Orion hired me full time.
And then you worked with our former police chief for quite a while, right?
Yes, I did.
How many years?
18, I believe.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so you mentioned your wife and newborn. So what got kids?
Got three.
Got three? All
Three
right.
girls.
Oh, wow.
And that was the funny topic of conversation between me and former Jerry Narsh. Because
Did you ever clean the guns when the boys came around to pick them up for dates?
Well, I had
Yes,
them nearby.
yes. Oh, that was a pause. I think that was a yes.
They were nearby.
My father always threatened to do that, but he never actually did. But he wasn't a police officer. He was just an attorney who, had a gun. So it wasn't quite as intimidating as I believe it would be if a gentleman caller came and saw you cleaning the gun on the couch.
Right. But that was the joke from when Chief Jerry was because I got three boys and they're all set for your three girls. So yeah. So
Well, at least they have something to talk about, you guys.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just me and my sister. I think my parents stopped after two girls. They didn't want to risk it for the third. So good for you. Oh my goodness. And so how old are they?
Well, my oldest is 30 and clobbered me for this. She's 31. My middle one's 26 and my youngest is 19.
Are they still in local or did they move out?
Yeah, they're still local.
Mhm.
And then I've been married now for 33 straight years.
Congratulations.
And, yeah, thank you. So,
That's I think we're 8, 7, 8. I think we're 8. You know what? My wedding band has the date of the wedding on it, and I can't wear it because I gained a little weight in those past 8 years. So I
Same here.
think it's about 8 years. So that's amazing. 33.
yeah, and especially in this job,
Mm-hmm.
with weekends working, nights working, missing birthdays, missing holidays, special events. There can be a strain, but it all comes down in communication
Mhm.
and again working through the problems that come up and be willing to listen and to one another.
Yeah,
That
and
helps.
I'm glad you brought that up because I don't think you know you as a layperson I don't think I would necessarily think, oh yeah, you're always missing nights and weekends and everything. So what is a normal schedule for you?
Well,
And I'd say normal, and I understand that it varies.
Well, when we first started out at Lake Orion Police, we were actually the full-time schedule. We were 30 days on days, and then we'd go 30 days on afternoons, and then we'd go 30 days on midnights. Then because of the doing it every 30 days kind of was taxing on our systems.
Mhm.
So then we ended up going to 90 days. So there'd be 90 days you'd work the day shift, then 90 days on afternoons, and then 90 days on midnights. So it depends on where things fell. Now, the other thing, too, is we also depend highly on our part-time staff.
Mhm.
And there are some times that you just can't find somebody to work. So as a full-time officer, sometimes you're forced in to work that shift because we're a 24/7 operation.
Right.
So we just make it work.
So what does the PD office look like now? The department. How many officers? How many support staff? What does it look like now?
Okay, so what we have now is I'm finally up to full staff with full time. I got 4 full-time officers.
Mhm.
There's myself, Lieutenant Stanfield, Officer Loomis.
And then she's the first woman full-time LOPD
Yes.
officer?
Yes. We had a couple part-time
Mhm.
officers and reserves, but she's the first one in Lake Orion history, full-time female officer, and she's totally qualified
Mhm.
for it, which is a really bonus, a big bonus on it. And then Officer Sean Brown, who came from Oxford.
Okay.
We have currently 10 part-time relief officers to help out. We have an ordnance officer, and we have about 13 volunteer reserve officers.
Okay.
And we also have a full-time clerk. So that pretty much rounds out our department.
Gotcha. Well, well, I'm happy to hear that you are fully staffed. I know that that was, it's hard to get full staff, especially right now during the pandemic. So good. I remember, uh, oh, probably 7 years ago, 6 or 7. My purse got stolen while I was grocery shopping at Kroger, and you know, everybody at Kroger was, helping, and it ended up one of the cart boys ran after him, and I got my purse. I said, if I was your mother, I'd kill you. But as the woman whose purse you just brought back, I really appreciate it. But I remember the LOPD coming right over, making sure everything was all right. And then that afternoon, evening, I got a call personally from you guys saying that you caught the person. So, it was very fast. And I just looked at my husband. I'm like, that was quick. That was really quick. And he's like, yeah, I mean, that's what you get when you have a small village boutique police department. And then I remember this past summer when we had Picasso around here, spray painting. That was one of the big, that was actually huge. And that was a lot of property damage. But one of the pieces of property that was damaged was my car. Somebody had spray painted an arc on the hood of my car. And you actually gave me a ride back to my car after I reported it. But that was really quick, and everything was done very, very fast. So thank you to you and your officers, and I'm glad that you're full staff because I guess that just means you're going to be even quicker and on top of things even more.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, I've had
And that's what we try for.
I've had great experiences with you guys, so thank you for that. And I know you had to hit the ground running when you were when you became police chief. You had I call him the spray paint Picasso, but that happened, and then you had the tower fall down. And all the power went out in downtown for what was it, an evening or two?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the tower again?
That was trying to remember. Oh, it was the pole that was back behind the art center.
Yes.
It was.
Yep.
And it blew out the transformer.
And I remember that night because my shop was next to Wine Social at the time, and I was over there, and I went over there, and I was like, "You guys, did you like bust, the power or something?" And you came door to door and said, let everybody know, which I found to be fantastic because, I mean, who knows what's going on, and theories and all of that stuff start happening, and people get angry. But I thought that you did a fantastic job. One, you had to introduce yourself, and two, you had to let us know what had happened, and you did not have fantastic news about when it was going to come back on. So
Right.
you did a great job doing that. So thank you for that. Um, and then you had the pandemic. So how has it been getting all these curveballs in the first year?
Well, it was nerve-wracking. Well, I mean, just getting promoted.
Hmm.
Listen, and he's going to be mad when I say this, but the former chief, is like he's an icon. Okay, I've learned a lot from him, and I told him, and he's going to get mad again. I said, "Oh my God, I feel sorry for the chief that's going to follow you because you got such big shoes." And he's so and he heard it from me a lot, and he just gets so mad at me. He says, "No," he says, "when you're in that position, just be you,
Hmm.
okay, and not worry about what I did or this or that." So it was a little nerve wracking at first because, again, these shoes were so big in my mind,
Hmm.
okay, and I'm sure to a lot of people. And can I, walk in those same shoes? And Jerry kept telling me, no, you walk in your own shoes. Again, just do what's best for Lake Orion and the police department. So yeah, it was a little nerve wracking. And of course, I think I was promoted finally on February, I believe it was 24th at the council meeting. And then what, less than a month later, we get the world's worst pandemic.
Right.
But I have to take my hat off to Lake Orion. Again, the business owners, the people of Lake Orion, they have suffered so much, just like everybody else, but more so the business people. And they really, they stood up and did what they were told to do. Whether it was right or wrong, they did it.
Hmm.
We had very few problems. Um, we did our best to try to help what we could do on our end. Um, and it was just really a quiet year. It was more or less the issues that, well, keep your department safe.
Hmm.
We were real. I have to thank Oakland County Emergency Management. Uh, when I asked for the PPEs,
Hmm.
we got them immediately.
Well, that's good.
So we got the masks, we got the gloves, we got gowns, we got the shields. Ford, I think, actually donated the shields to us. So I implemented a procedure that if when you had two officers, one going and one coming on, we'd brief each other. So what it was is they would use their phones.
Hmm.
The exiting officer would then spray down his workstation, the patrol car, and then when the other guy came in, he would do the same thing to keep the station safe.
Hmm.
They were requested to wear their PPE when necessary. So we survived it. We didn't have to close the police department down. I worried about that.
Hmm.
I didn't want to be one of those departments that you totally had to close down. But all the officers came into work. Nobody called off. So they did everything humanly possible to try to keep the people of Lake Orion and even the visitors of Lake Orion safe.
Hmm.
So it went well, considering. The only big thing as a chief is when you start getting the executive orders, and then you have to try to dissect the constitutionality of those orders.
Hmm.
And so with it, I think I did a pretty good job with that, deciphering what I can enforce, what I can't enforce. So all in all, the people behaved well. A lot of areas we're looking at increase in alcoholism,
Hmm.
health, mental health calls,
Yep.
and we kind of escaped that. We had a few, but we were not overwhelmed.
Gotcha.
So we went well, during the pandemic.
Gotcha. Well, you have a couple of awards as well. The policeman's public servants. So I saw a citation, and I'm like, a citation, but that's an award.
Yes.
Yes. So from the National Veterans of Foreign Wars, you got that in 2014 or 15.
Yeah, I believe
Ringing a
that was
bell?
the year. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've just won so many. I'm pretty sure that's the right year, right? Yeah. So what are Lifesaver Awards? You got two of those.
That is where you bring somebody back to life. It was both of those were CPR runs. The first one, a gentleman had at one of the local coffee shops, fell to the ground when I arrived on scene, wasn't breathing, didn't have a pulse.
Uh-huh.
And what I did was immediately started CPR, and we were able to get a pulse back, get him breathing, put him on a cot, get him in. The Orion Fire arrived with their gear also, and we were able to get him transported to the hospital, and he survived. And then the latest one was the Subway. It was at Subway, same thing. I first got there first. The gentleman had no pulse, wasn't breathing, was laying there. Then I started CPR. Orion Fire arrived on scene, and we just worked together, and we brought him back. So those are the Lifesaver Awards that you would get. It's when somebody, or you did something to pretty much save a life, is what it is.
So I see that you have the medical pin above your,
Yes.
and so does everybody go through that training?
Yes, we are. Actually, Orion Fire has been really good for us. we'll go through first aid CPR training. And right now, I think it's every couple of years, I think our cards are good for. So yes, all our officers go through that training.
Okay. And then, well, now that we're looking at your pins, the one underneath, it's a blue and red triangle. Well, it's a square with the, yeah. What's that one for?
That is for years of service.
Oh,
So up to 30 years.
so you got to wait 30 years to get the blue and the red?
Yeah.
All right. And then you got the Orion Area Chamber of Commerce Employee of the Year Award in 98.
Yes.
So what was that for?
Well, that was when the chamber, if I recall, that was a while back.
Yeah, yes. I see these memes online. It's like, you're getting older if it's still, you still think of 1990s as being 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, if I recall what that was, is the Chamber of Commerce, Orion,
Mhm.
did a yearly, Citizen of the Year kind of thing, or Business of the Year and stuff like, or Employee of the Year kind of thing. And so somebody, not sure who did, but some people nominated me from, I guess, some of the services that I, did with them or whatever, and so that's how I got and they picked out of, I'm sure, unless it was one.
There was just one
One
nomination. No.
But yeah, so that's how I got nominated.
Well,
And-
and then it also said that you had numerous other citations or awards
Yeah.
throughout your career. Well, that's pretty impressive. I don't get any. Well, I did get the best boutique, but you don't get a award all the time. Especially when I was practicing attorney, I never got an award. Barely got a thank you.
Well, we get put into sometimes situations that, again, it's going over and above. Jerry always looked at Chief Jerry. Anytime you went over and above, duties, he would issue a citation to the officers. You're normal, yeah, do this or do that. But it's really big when citizens, and that's where we get it from, is when the citizens will either write a nice letter or call the chief and say, hey, this officer, did this for me, didn't have to do this. And so that's huge. When you can get citizens to, again, it's tough to write a nastygram, let alone a nice, letter. So, so that's where a lot of that comes from.
Gotcha. Well, you went above and beyond during the pandemic, the LOPD and the fire department, because you guys started going around and helping kids celebrate their birthdays. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it started with a phone call.
Mhm.
A lady lived in the township of Orion, and she asked if we were doing something like that. And I said, well, not really. She said, well, the city of Rochester, because I don't want to take total claim for this. The city of Rochester was doing it. And she read. And I said, listen, you live in Orion Township. We're the village police. But I gave them a phone number to contact the sheriff's office and see if they'd be willing to do it. Well, then I thought this was such a great idea. So I contacted Lieutenant Dan Toth and John Pender with the fire department. And the three of us started communicating about it. And we actually all three came together and said, you know what, let's do this.
So it was the LOPD, the Lake Orion Fire Department, and who was the third?
The Oakland County Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
And it was great to be able to work as a team, the three of us. And so we decided to do it. And so I said, all right, well, I'll put it, I put it on the Facebook police page.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first 20 minutes, I think we ended up with 96 requests.
Wow. So so you guys would like drive by in your cars and the fire trucks and stuff?
Yes.
With your lights on and everything?
Yes.
To celebrate birthdays for these kids, because this was during the spring, summertime, right?
Yes, it was in the spring. Yeah.
when we were really like shut down. You could roll like 4 bowling balls down downtown Lake Orion on the sidewalks and down both sides of the roads, and you wouldn't hit anything.
Right.
So yes,
It was April. I think April we started that,
Mhm.
and then I hate this because I'm going to forget somebody, but we had I know Cookies and Cream,
Mhm.
and I know the Raggarts, and a lot of businesses, Tim Hortons and Culver's, and knew we were doing this, and they donated like gift certificates. The Raggarts even chocolate bunnies.
Mhm.
Bought a whole bunch, for us to hand out, which we couldn't hand out. But what
Right.
I did was we got sandwich bags, and we'd put those little gifts in the brown paper bag,
Mhm.
and I would put it when I was able to do it. I'd put it on the hood of my patrol car, and then we went out and bought a poster board that said "Happy Birthday" on it, put balloons and stuff, and I'd put a string, hook it to my spotlight, and I'd drive up, and there was a nice birthday sign, and I had the bag on the hood of the car, and so they could get their little gift. And again, so many local downtown businesses donated, and
Mhm.
again in these horrendous times, where they're closed, they were giving, and we
Mhm.
thought it was such a great idea. So yeah, the fire department and the sheriff's office and us, we conversed. There were times that they did it on their own. We didn't have a car available, and there was times that or it was their choice.
Mhm.
Sometimes some of them, the families only wanted a police car. Sometimes some families wanted a fire truck, and then some asked, "Hey, can we have both?" So yeah, so we did that for almost all the way until I think July 1st. Then we started picking up. The sheriff's office started picking up
Mhm.
fire department on calls, and so we kind of had to start putting an end to that.
Yeah. How many kids do you think you celebrated with?
I would say probably we were close to at least 200.
Wow. Wow.
Easy.
And that was all over Oakland County, or did you guys focus?
Orion and Lake Orion.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Gotcha.
did. The village had the fewest,
Uh-huh.
but the township had many more because there's more
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
And so no, we did it for the village of Lake Orion and Orion Township.
So 200 lucky kids got it just in this area. That's amazing. I'm sure that was very fulfilling for you and your team.
The phone calls from the parents afterwards was where it was so overwhelmed. I mean, there were times hung up the phone. I had tears in my eyes because the parents said, if you only saw the joy, the smile
Mhm.
that you folks put on their faces when they were planning on birthday parties. I mean, listen, the part of me that wanted to do this so much was the kids were in school, and then suddenly it was the day that stopped.
Yeah.
It was it. The world stopped.
Mhm.
You couldn't go to school. Kids had birthday parties planned. Had to cancel birthday parties. Kids couldn't go out and play on play sets. We had to rope those off. It was weird. It was like the day, and then, you could see the parents were having some problems with this, but we know kids, they can get through a lot,
Mhm.
but still, it was tough on them too. And all we wanted to do was bring a smile to everyone's faces the best way we could. And so, yeah, it was seeing the smiles was just priceless.
Well, I'm sure a lot of kids will probably go into law enforcement because of that. It's those little things that really influence what they want to be when they grow up. So, thank you for that. All right. Um, Going back real quick to your department and how it's made up. There are um, in summertime, there's a police boat that's out on the lake, correct?
Yes.
And is that Lake Orion PD or is that Oakland County, or does both come out?
We both do.
Okay.
Basically, Oakland County Sheriff's Department, they have their own marine division, and they do put out a lot of the busy lakes is where they try to put their boats on the lakes. And then the lakes that are not so busy, , they'll use, like they call it, the jump boats. Um, Chief Narsh, we knew we had with our islands, we knew we had a problem because if we ever got a call to Victoria Island or Romance Island,
Mm-hmm.
again, or if we had to get out on the lake, we would have to commandeer a boat. I mean, there were many times at the end of Highland, there there would be some boats there.
That
Um,
sounds so intense. You'd have to
uh,
commandeer a boat, like run up. We need this boat. Yeah.
I mean, you would. If somebody had a boat on shore, you'd say, hey, can we, grab
Yeah.
a boat and go out? It even got to a point that in the middle of the night, okay, you would have loud parties on Victoria Island. And we had to get out there to quiet it down or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And there were some council members that would allow, we'd use their boat. I mean, we'd call them and, yeah, we'll take you out.
Mhm.
There were some residents that would do that too, the ones that would complain. But I didn't like doing it. I didn't want to bring them into the situation. And there were times I found a rattly old rowboat with oars. And there was one time I had to go out at 4:00 in the morning for loud music. And it had one oar in it. So I'm doing one oar and trying to
Oh my
across
goodness.
Victoria Island at 4 in the morning.
Oh.
And of course, I get out there, and I knew the individual because we were there many a time,
Uh-huh.
and we've had many dealings. And okay, I'll turn it down. So wrote him a ticket because we were out there numerous times. He knew better,
Uh-huh.
and so I would not. I got back to almost shore, and he turned it back up again. So there I go in this little old rowboat at 5:00 in the morning when it's dark out.
Yeah.
And with a rope, with an oar, trying to get out there. But anyways, Chief Nars felt it was a liability that we got to get out there
Mhm.
quickly as possible. So, and council, because we used to have a boat. We had one before I started. There was a father and daughter who were part-time officers
Mhm.
who actually, it was back when Sea Ray was up in Oxford, and they donated the village police department a boat. So we had one before I started 87. So Jerry wanted to get back to that and also maybe be a presence out on the lake. So yes, in a long, dictation I'm giving
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
yes, we do have a boat, and we tried it. We'll share the waters with the sheriff's department.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I live on the lakes, and so we see both of those boats, the LO boat and then the Oakland County Sheriff. So when do you guys normally start going out on the lake?
Well, we're hoping to get the boat out. We were thinking maybe the first week of April.
Mhm.
Depending the weather is going to chill off a little bit. But now there are some people putting boats in the water.
My husband included.
And we're like to get it in within the next week or two
Gotcha.
and have it ready.
All right. Well, all right. So now we come to the part of the podcast where I pick 3 random questions to ask you. And as a thank you for doing that, you can pick a random question to ask me. However, they're all out of order now. So I'm just going to pick 3 and then I'll pick one for you
Okay.
to ask me. All right. Oh, all right. Please, Chief Rossman, how do you measure success?
Okay. If I can satisfy the people I serve and my officers, I believe that's success. And because I'm a big worrier. I mean, when it comes to if I'm doing the job right, if I can go to sleep at night knowing I see that as success also. But mainly, I like to hear feedback
Mhm.
from the community that I serve. And when I hear positive feedback from the community and my officers, I feel that I've done my job.
All right. And then what was your favorite TV show as a kid?
Well, going back, there were many cop shows back in the day.
Mhm.
Go figure. But I think the one that I really liked was Hill Street Blues.
Okay.
I think it showed police in a more realistic in that time era. I think, I mean, there was Chips and there was the Rookies and stuff like that, but Hill Street Blues seemed like it really showed the realistic side of law enforcement.
Just like 21 Jump Street. That showed a realistic view of police officers, right? Like, the
Never caught it.
oh, Johnny. No, I was joking. Johnny Depp plays, and his team are younger cops that look like they're high school age, so they go to the high schools and go undercover. So I always thought that might have been more realistic, but I guess it's not. So okay, so the third question that's another childhood question, so I'm going to grab another one. I'm breaking my own rules.
That's okay.
All right. So can you read that one?
All right. There's a glass.
Yeah,
I forget that. Okay. What was the worst question you have been asked during a job interview?
Are you going to have children? Which people are not allowed to ask you that. But I did get asked that. I was like 25, first law job, so I answered. I don't remember what I answered, to be completely honest. I did something or other, but I was the scariest person to hire at the time because I was recently engaged, and we were going to get married that year. So, I understand that people take a risk, but they were not supposed to ask me that question.
Well, you can see how far we've come.
Mhm.
You can't ask that anymore.
Right. Well, he couldn't ask it at the time. This was only like, what, 10 years ago?
Oh,
Yes. So I'm not that old.
no, you're not.
All right. Oh, okay. So your third and final question is, what was the last accomplishment you celebrated? That comes to mind.
Oh, boy.
Well, when was your
That's
anniversary?
Well, that's coming up in September.
Okay.
Well, becoming chief. Which it's funny. When I first got into this job, I just wanted to be an officer, and then you become a lieutenant, and then now chief in your town.
Mhm.
This town is very dear to me, and to be able to serve your hometown, and then now you're at the top spot. Wow. To me, that's really great.
Is your wife Lake Orion born and raised?
No, she's from Waterford, and actually, what was funny was when Chief Jerry, he grew up over by Lake Oakland
Mhm.
in Drayton Plains. Well, that's where I currently live, is off of Lake Oakland in the old Drayton Plains.
Uh-huh.
So, but no, she was from Waterford, and
When did you guys meet? How did you guys meet?
well, we met at the old Pontiac Mall at the SS Kresge's.
Okay.
I was the stock boy at the time, and she worked at the service desk, and that's where we met.
Now, who asked who out?
Well, that was the funny. Well, it had to be one of my coworkers.
Oh, okay.
Too shy, and our first date was actually a Halloween party.
Uh-huh. Do you remember what you went as?
No.
Do you remember
But-
what she went as?
I think a genie.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
but we'll have that conversation. She says, because they all went on a hayride, so we got there a little late. So all we did was talk.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Wow," she said, "You talked about being a police officer, and I would, and again, I wasn't a big fan of police officers at the time, and never thought that I would ever be involved with a police officer." And
Uh-huh.
she said, "Wow," and so
Well,
that's how we met.
all right. So anything else we should know? Oh, actually, I do want to ask you, because I know this has been brought up at a lot of village council meetings and all of that, and we have a few more minutes, so I'm going to pick your brain on this one. There's been a lot of parking. Been a lot of confusion around parking because it's just, one of those things. I'm pretty sure every community has issues with parking. Now, in downtown, what are the rules for the streets, like the parking on the streets in front of the uh, businesses.
Yeah, what the rule of thumb is downtown, South Broadway, North Broadway,
Mhm.
East and West Flint, downtown, especially, and then even front, and part of Shadbolt is, again, it's 2 hour parking for everybody else, the customers.
Okay.
Employees are not allowed, or business. You can load and unload,
Okay.
and it's 30 minutes.
Okay.
But employees and business owners are not allowed to park downtown because
On those streets. Yeah.
They're designated parking lots.
Uh huh.
But the downtown streets are for our customers.
Okay.
And so, unfortunately, not sure exactly why there's so much confusion with that. But that's the thing. We want more areas for our customers because, again, a lot of customers, and it was interesting that every place I worked, like I lighted at the Palace of Auburn Hills in Pine Knob, and even there, the employees had to park at a distance.
Right.
And so the paying customer would always get the prime spots.
Gotcha.
And even at Pine Knob, we were over in a grassy or a gravel parking lot, which was almost near Sashamal Road, and we'd have to walk in. So, and every business I worked for, where they had their own property, the employees were all told to park out in the parking lot a ways, and we reserved the closer spots for our customers.
Okay. And now going into the residential areas, again, I'm bringing this up because this was brought up at village council meetings. Like parking by the lake, for instance, Heights Road,
Yes.
and then on Bellevue,
Yes.
parking on the side of the road that goes into the lake. What are the rules for that? In general, for that kind of an area that's village owned.
Yes.
So by the road on the side of the lake.
Right. That's public right of way. So we're not allowed in public right of way to store trailers, boat trailers. Now vehicles can park along there,
Mhm.
but they got to be operational,
Okay.
meaning and plated properly.
Okay.
So people can park along there if they like. They're not. They would be deemed, their vehicle would be deemed under Michigan state law an abandoned auto, which is if a vehicle sits for more than 48 hours,
Okay.
the state considers that, especially in public right of way, as an abandoned auto. So you're not supposed to have docks, boat hoists on village property.
Okay. And I mean, a lot of people do have that, and that will be, discussed, I'm sure, in length later, because I don't even know the answers to some of those questions. But okay, so 48 hours, for that park. Generally speaking, for the parking on by the lake, that's the village property. That's 48 hours. No untagged vehicles. They have to be licensed. There has to be a license plate on them, and boats, trailers, that stuff. Don't leave them there.
Right.
Okay. And I know that part of that is because, like on Bellevue, that road, that ridge is starting to fall down, and it's dangerous. Is that correct?
Further down.
Yeah,
Yes,
further
by
down.
West,
Yep.
right about West Point. That
Okay.
little area there is hazardous.
Gotcha. Okay.
Actually, I went down the hill taking pictures. So because it's very narrow, if you open the passenger door, you could go right down the hill down to the lake.
Gotcha. All right. Any other public service announcements you want to make with regards to parking or residential or commercial?
No, I think for the most part, we're trying to get our parking agents out there now.
Mhm.
We did have one retire just this last weekend. He's going to be going to the Michigan State Police Academy here, I think, in the next few months. No, the parking is there. We'll get through it.
Mhm.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Like I said, it's probably an issue in most communities. So,
It's always been an issue ever
mm,
since I've been here. And I mean, when I went back they had parking meters. So, and the parking guy would go and collect the change from the parking meters. So
gotcha.
then they took them out and wanted more free parking for the customers. So now my biggest thing going forward is if I can address that, watch our speed. Right now, if anything, we're seeing an increase in traffic violations,
Okay.
people running stop signs, people running red lights and speed. We're out there. We are for some reason, and we're getting a high number of traffic crashes. So just I know we're starting to open up. I know it's starting to get warm out, and people get excited about that on top of everything. But the biggest thing is we'll get asked to do radar enforcement on some of our local streets, and my gosh, it's some of our own people that are doing it.
Hmm.
So, I'm just asking everybody, just kids are out there, our elderly people are walking, there are more people getting out. Please slow down. Please, watch the stop signs, the lights.
Yep.
And the other big thing is lock your doors at night, your car doors. Our biggest crime on larceny from autos are from unlocked vehicles.
Hmm.
And they've told us it's easier to find unlocked vehicles than
Locked.
messing with the locked door.
All right. Well, I appreciate that insight, and I appreciate you being a guest on our show today. We are just about out of time. So thank you. Thank your police department. I know you got a couple new younger officers on board with you. And congratulations to them. And we will see you guys about town.